What is up, guys? Today we're going to be continuing the series and the course Metasploit Unleashed, offered by Offensive Security for free. So today we're going to go into the next section, and that is service identification, scanning services using Metasploit. So what we're going to use for this is I already have a Kali VM installed. I also have two virtual machines running, so I have Metasploitable 2 and a Windows 7 machine, and yeah, we're good to go. So scanning services using Metasploit. So this says that other than using Nmap to perform scanning for services on our target network, Metasploit also includes a large variety of scanners for various services, often helping you determine potentially vulnerable running service on target machines. So that's right, Nmap really is the tool that we utilize to just audit machines, scan machines. But this is telling us that, hey, Metasploit also has a module. And I guess this is worthy in case of sometimes you want to run two tools in case you're not sure of the results that perhaps Nmap is giving you. Or also, maybe you don't have Nmap and for some reason, and you need to make use of Metasploit. So this is good to know. So the first service that we're going to be scanning is SSH, and then the second one is FTP. So moving on to the SSH service. So it says that a previous scan shows us that we have TCP port 22 open on two machines. SSH is very secure, but vulnerabilities are not unheard of, and it always pays to gather as much information as possible from your targets. Okay, so here we see that they already have Metasploit, the MSF console, up and running, and that they typed services, TAC P22, TAC C, name, port, proto. And this is what they received, and I guess they're receiving, okay, there's two machines, telling them that, hey, for port 22. Oh, okay, so I guess proto is the protocol. It says, okay, give me the name of the port or the service. Give me the port and give me the protocol. Okay. So we'll load up the SSH version auxiliary scanner and issue the set command to the rhosts option. From there, we can run the module by simply typing run. So since they confirmed that this service is running, and I guess where the IP addresses are. So let's take a look at that. So let's run this first. So basically what they're doing, guys, is that they're running this to see if SSH is running. And yep, SSH is running on these two hosts in this subnetwork. Okay, so it basically probably scanned 172.168.194 dot, and then from 0 to 254. And out of all of those entries, it found an address at 172, an address at 163 that are running the SSH. So once that was identified, then they're going to run the SSH version auxiliary. Why? Because we want to get the version of the SSH service. Why? Because if we get the version, then we can look it up and see, are there any known exploits on this version? Is this version vulnerable? And if so, then maybe we can find a payload, an exploit code, and take advantage of it and see if we are actually able to exploit it and then add that to our report. So the SSH version auxiliary scanner, we're going to issue the set command for our hosts and then just type run. Okay, and this is what they get. So they'll get that, hey, for this host at this port number, SSH server version is SSH 2.0, OpenSSH, Debian, Ubuntu. And then the second one, something similar. So let's do this together. So the first thing that we need to do first is start our MSF console. So I got Kali running. There we go. So the first thing we need to do is find our hosts. So for me, I'm going to do if config, This is the IP address of my machine, so I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to do nmap. Actually, I don't want to do nmap, right? I want to use MSF console. Okay, so let me just sudo su first. So I'm gonna get root privileges first. Now let's run MSF console, which is Metasploit. I'm gonna open up a new tab just to have it ready, because I'm gonna want to do an nmap. This is my IP address. So if I take the last two, I do 0/24. That is a CIDR 024. That's going to scan all addresses that begin with this, and then the last number is going to do 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 254. So I'm just gonna have that running. Okay, so MSF console is up. So let's copy. Let's copy this. Let's do services p22. Let's copy paste this guy. Okay. Let's see what happens. So it says that the database is not connected. Okay. Okay, so we can do, what is it? Service start PostgreSQL MSF console. I always get this one wrong. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so we're going to start the database by doing the service PostgreSQL start MSF console queue. So this is just going to start the first part here. Service PostgreSQL starts the database, and then the the MSF console is going to start Metasploit. So I guess really what we need to do is that we need to start and scan our network, because this, well, you'll see, because I don't think it's going to know what addresses to scan. Database is not connected, so I still get that. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, because this is calling on a previous scan that was done. So, okay, so if I want to do this port scanning, if we go back to port scanning, Nmap, port scanning. So we can do a search port scan TCP. So let's try this one. So let's just do search port scan. Okay, so we're going to use this guy right here. So there's two ways that you can do it. You can copy paste this here, or you can just do use number 5. You see how each one has an ID. So if I do use 5, it's going to take me to 5, which is the port scan TCP. And here you see the port scan TCP. Okay, so I'm going to do show options. I need to do the ports 1 to 10,000 and then the R hosts. Okay. So notice that I already have to know the R hosts. In this case, we already do, because it is right here from Nmap. So we have the .11 and the .12. But let's say we don't. We need to do host discovery with Metasploit. And I think that let's try to do that together here. So if we go back to information gathering, Yeah, so even here they teach you just start off with Nmap. So let's do this. We're going to do the DB Nmap. That way it saves the output, saved to our database. Okay? Let's do a little. I only run as root. There we go. So we're going to do the DB Nmap. Remember that we are 168.100. And then CIDR 24. DB Nmap command not found. Why not? Interesting. Okay, so how do we get it? And that's the thing with going through a book, going through a course. It seems all easy as you read it and smooth because the person writing this, it works for them. But if it doesn't work for you, right, and it usually won't, there's a lot of things that are not going to work, then we need to figure out how to fix it. And this is just part of the process. So don't be discouraged and don't feel like, this is not for you, because you're going to encounter a lot of things that you don't know off the top of your head that you're just going to need to research. So what we need to do here is just fix it. So let's see DB Nmap. So what I'm going to do is DB Nmap command not found. I'm just going to go on the web and search for this. DB Nmap Scan requires root privileges. Yeah, and I know that. We're already root. It's just that the command is not found. That's all. Let's see. Oh, I see. So I think that I run DB Nmap from Metasploit. I think that that's what's going on here. So let's copy this again. We're going to run this here. Database is not connected. Okay, so what do we need to do now? Sudo service PostgreSQL start. DB status. So let's do DB status. PostgreSQL selected, but there's no connection. Come on, guys. Why are you giving me ladies' underwear? Okay, sorry about that. With PostgreSQL up and running, we need to create and initialize. Launch the MSF console. Fix the Metasploit cache issue. Search WordPress, database not connected. So we're going to run these 3 steps. Okay, guys. This is really small. So we're going to run these 3. We're going to open up our little handy notepad. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do step 1, step 2, and step 3. So let's get her done. So I'm going to exit from here. I'm going to clear this. So we're going to run the first step. And the first step is this. So service PostgreSQL start. Okay. Step 1 is done. Second step is msfdb init. That's the step that we were missing. what's happening is that it's starting up a database for this session. So we're starting the PostgreSQL service first, and then we're going to initialize the database that's going to run on or make use of the service PostgreSQL. So you see here that it says, okay, the database already started. Why? Because we started it here. You see, database start. So it has already started. But then it goes on to create a database user. It is going to create the database, and it's going to create database MSF, MSF test. It's going to create a configuration file, and it's going to create an initial database schema. If there's one of these things that you don't know what it means, maybe like database schema, then just Google it. Just do a quick, I'm going to do it somewhere else. What is database schema? And it says here that the database schema is a structure of a database described in a formal language supported by the database management system. The term schema refers to the organization of a data as a blueprint of how a database is constructed. So it's basically the pillars, the skeleton of the database. And it basically says this is what the database is going to look like, and this is how the database language, the database is going to operate, how it's going to be organized. But of course, that is a very reduced version of what a database schema does and how it works. So if you're still confused or you still have more questions, I would definitely encourage you to look it up. All right, so let's get moving. Okay, so we're going to do, again, right? We already have started it, so let's do MSF console. It's loading. Notice how much slower it is loading it with the database. Okay, there it is. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to run that DB Nmap, this right here. Why? Because we're starting from 0 here, right? So it's basically, it's going to run an Nmap Scan. Notice how it does it. It does it for each IP address, and then it does it for each port from 0 to 10,000, or 1 to 10,000, I'm sorry. And it's going to save the output in the database so that then we can play with it. Metasploit is a nifty tool. I don't know how much professional penetration testers use it, but I'm sure that they use it a lot because you can do a lot with it. Okay, so it's 80%, 82% there. Okay, so our scan just finished. So you'll get an idea of what it's doing. There's a lot here. You see how it says host down? So really what it's doing is it's trying to see, hey, at this address, is there somebody there? So it's knocking on doors, right? It's stopping at each door. Each one of these IP addresses is an address of a home, imagine. And then someone is going, and Nmap is going, and hey, knocking on this door. Is anyone there? No? Okay, going to the next door, and so on, so forth. And what determines the range of the number of IP addresses that it's going to go knock on is the CIDR 24 mark. So if I were to do, I don't know, CIDR 8, like a /8 or /16, then it would be a different number of IP addresses. I could also do 192.168.0.0, and then it would look for all addresses from 0 to 254 here, and then 0 to 254 here. So that will be a lot more IP addresses. So you'll notice that here it did it from 0 all the way to 255. Okay. And it found host down, host down, host down, host down. But notice that it jumps from 9 to 13. That means that 10, 11, and 12, there's something there. So after it does the host discovery, now it's going to initialize the parallel DNS resolution. And now it's going to initialize the SYN stealth scan. Now it's going to do the SYN scan because the first one was the discovery scan. How many live machines do we have in this subnet? Okay, from 10 to 12, it found something. So now it's going to do the SYN stealth scan, which is going to see what ports are open on these machines. So first, what machines are alive, then what ports are open on those machines. So it'll do, so it says scanning 5 hosts, 1,000 ports per host, and it goes ahead and does that. Then it completes the stealth scan against this, etc. And it continues on. Okay. So now we can do what the course is telling us to do, which is we got to go back now. So we are in service identification. So now we can do this, because this is basically going to query the database from our Nmap scan that we just ran. Cool. So we do have one port, and that's port. We have one machine running SSH. Perfect. So now we know to target this guy. So let's copy this IP address. So the next thing we're going to do is that we want to know the SSH version for that. So we're going to search for SSH version. Oh yeah, there we go. Here it is. This is the one that we want. We're going to do use 3. Again, it's 3 because the one that we want is under number 3. Now we're going to do show options to see what we need to fill out. The required is going to tell you, hey, these are required fields, so we need to fill it out before we run this. These are already filled out, so I'm going to leave them alone, and we're just going to fill out our hosts, which is set our hosts, and then we're going to paste the IP address. Set our hosts, and the IP address that we got from a little earlier. Okay, now we're going to hit run. Perfect. So it scanned this IP address and this port, and it's telling us that, hey, there's an SSH server version, and it is SSH 2.0 OpenSSH 4.7. Fantastic. If we go here and we do the same with Nmap, so basically here we're going to do an Nmap tac sv means get me the version details, and then the port 22, and then this IP address. Here you go. What do we get? OpenSSH 4.7 P1 Debian Ubuntu Protocol 2.0. And here we got the Protocol 2.0, which is SSH 2.0, OpenSSH 4.7, Debian Ubuntu. Perfect. We got the same info. Fantastic. Good stuff. So let's move on to the next step. Okay. So right now what we're doing, again, this is information gathering. We're in the information gathering stage of right here of the course and also of the penetration tests. You first do all of your information gathering, write it down, collect it, so that then you can take a couple of steps back, look at all the information and say, this is what I'm going to attack. This is the way that I'm going to go through, or just to create your report, to be quite honest with you. We need to get all of this information to put it in our report and to say, hey, these are all the things that I found. So we need to index those, and then we also need to provide feedback on whether there's any vulnerabilities or exploits that we found, and what were we able to compromise. So, okay, we have that. Okay, so let's go to the FTP service. And it says that poorly configured FTP servers can frequently be the foothold you need in order to gain access to an entire network. So it always pays off to check to see if the anonymous access is allowed whenever you encounter an open FTP port, which is usually on TCP port 21. We'll set the threads to 1 here, as we're only going to scan one host. The threads is just saying how many threads do you want in the CPU to be running, which is basically how many mini processes do you want running. The more threads, the faster it's going to go, but then the more data that's going to be sent in, sent out, and the more pressure you're going to be putting on this communication. You know, you're going to speed things up, you're going to pressure things up. So because we're only going to scan one host, we can leave threads at 1. But let's say that you're doing a network with 150 hosts, then you probably want to increase the threads because we only have so much time to perform this assessment. And so again, so it's doing in the services P21, and let's see, right? So this is going to help us find out, hey, from all the hosts that we scanned, do we have this? Do any of them have port 21 or the FTP port open? And it does. So the .11 has it. So the .11 had the SSH, and now they also have the FTP. So let's do a quick FTP. So there's 160 something entries. So a good way to do this is maybe you can do search auxiliary scanner FTP. Boom, and that reduced it to 8 entries. The reason I know this is just because I've used Metasploit enough times to know that for anything related to information gathering, then they all start with auxiliary scanner and then the service, right? But what I don't know is, okay, what module within that service is the one that we need, because we want to test for the anonymous. So I just saw it right here, auxiliary scanner FTP anonymous. So let's do info 0 to get more information on that one. So the description is detect anonymous, read write FTP service access. So yeah, we want to use 0 then. And we're going to show the options. We're going to set our hosts to 192.168.100.11. And the reason we're going to do that, guys, is because when we searched our database, it told us that this machine right here is running FTP. And that's the reason why I can put this as the R hosts. Everything else looks good. Always make sure that all the required fields are being filled out. You can do a show options again to see that, yep, it filled out correctly. Double check your grammar. Double check your spelling, I'm sorry. And then run it. And there we go. So we got anonymous read. It looks like, yes, anonymous read. So we don't have write, but we do have read access into it. Fantastic. Let's see what the course tells us to do next, right? So here they run it. They set the R hosts. They run it, and then they get similar results as us. And it says that in a short amount of time with very little work, we're able to acquire a great deal of information about the hosts residing on the network, thus providing us with a much better picture of what we're facing when conducting a penetration test. There's obviously too many scanners for us to show, showcase. It is clear, however, that Metasploit framework is well suited for all your scanning and identification needs. Yes, it is. Oh, so here is telling you, wow. So these are all the different types of scanners. So there's 485 possibilities. Okay. So do you guys want to take this a little further? Let's see if search FTP anonymous or FTP maybe like login. Search so we know that you can access it anonymously, but what else do they have? They have an FTP login. Let's try this. Let's see if we can anonymously log into the FTP. Sorry, I know we're taking a detour from the course, but I don't know. It's fun. Okay. So this is basically going to brute force it seems. Because it's going to ask you for a password file and all that. So I guess that the way we would do this is we would set username as anonymous. Because that's the anonymous login. You would do anonymous and then a blank password. I don't know if I need to use like bunny ears. Let's see. No, I don't need to use it. Okay, so we're going to set password as blank. And then we're going to set our hosts. So let's, yeah, I was going to set it globally, but I won't. Set our hosts as 192.168.100.11. I'm doing show options again just to make sure that this froze. Okay. Required, yeah. Required. Verbose. Okay, run. Error. Okay. Because this is trying to brute force and it's saying, hey, you can't put, this is not trying to log in. This is just trying to brute force it. So that's why it didn't work. So let's search for FTP. Yeah. So let's see. Let's search for Linux or exploit Linux FTP. Okay. Sorry, guys. So my Kali Linux was the top row. The search bar was just completely frozen, so I had to restart it. Okay, so we're searching for FTP anonymous login, and we're taking a little detour from the course to see what we can find. So let's see if we can log in anonymously to FTP using Metasploit. So I think a better search would be FTP anonymous login exploit Metasploit. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. We won't do it here because it'll take a little bit of time. But basically, it's telling you that you can get a reverse shell because we have access to. We can log in anonymously to the FTP server. Then we could create a payload using MSF Venom right here, and then we're going to upload it into the FTP using an anonymous login. And then we can enumerate the system from there because we're going to start a handler. It's going to connect back to us. Okay, cool. All right, so let's continue on with this. Okay, so we're going to do now password sniffing. Okay, so we can also do passwords. Again, this course is teaching us all the things that we can do with Metasploit. So now we've already done some host discovery today. We've also done where we have identified the service version for SSH, FTP. We have also identified whether an anonymous login is possible in FTP. And now we're going to do some password sniffing. So Max Moser released a Metasploit password sniffing module called psnuffle that will sniff passwords off the wire, similar to the tool dsniff. It currently supports POP3, IMAP, FTP, and HTTP GET. So what's the common denominator among all these three? That all of these threes send password in clear text. So that's why we would be able to sniff them. So more information is available in this blog, and we'll open it. Okay, cool. All right, so using the psnuffle module is extremely simple. There are some options available, but the module works great out of the box. So this is the module. So it only requires the protocols. Number of bytes to capture and then the timeout. So there's some options available, including the ability to import a pcap capture file. We will run the psnuffle scanner in its default module. Okay. So let's psnuffle. So let's try it out. So we're using the 0. We're going to show options. I guess we don't have to set the R hosts because it's just going to be sniffing off of our NIC or our network interface card. So here you can just do run, really. And what we can try to do is that in a new tab, we can try to do log into the FTP. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start the psnuffle and then we're going to log into FTP. We're just going to set this up really quick so we can do the FTP, and then this will be the address that we're going to log into. We're going to run this. So it's sniffing traffic. So we're going to hit enter now, and then we're going to do, I guess username would be anonymous, and password is blank. Login successful. So it doesn't seem to have picked up anything, interestingly enough, because it's sniffing the traffic, but okay, there it is. So you see it's sniffing. So because I entered a password this time, that triggered it. So apparently there's some updates that I need to do, but I won't do now. And then here it says failed FTP login. From this, you see, so this is my machine and the port that I was running on. And I'm sending this message to this IP address. And here's the username and here's the password. Obviously, these are fake. I don't have any credentials to the FTP. However, this demonstrates that this works and how it works. So notice that when I tried to do the anonymous and then the blank password, nothing happened. But when a password was filled out in that field and sent, then it triggered it, it captured it, and it displayed it. Cool. All right, guys, so that's all we're going to be doing in this video. But then in the next one, we are going to learn how to extend psnuffle and I guess how to sniff other protocols. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying this course and you find it helpful to your career, to your development. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye.